just tons of gratitude, tons of excitement for ACC play to start. We have a team I know I picked in the top 2 in the conference with Syracuse coming up. Tons of respect for their depth, their coaching ability, how hard they play. Had some time this morning to watch our game from last year against them, and that might have been our grittiest and toughest performance of the season. We had just lost Beatrice, and we played really tough and hard. So it's going to be, it just reminds you as a coach, like you just get those feelings again, like, oh my God, it's ACC. And, the what ifs and if this is going to happen and all the wonder that you had back in March and in June and August and heck, even at the beginning of November, not being sure. To have this kind of Christmas Eve type feeling is great for a coach.
All right, and a reminder to use the raise hand feature if you have a question. Our first question comes from Cal Friedman. Go ahead, Cal.
Hey, Coach. So your team has played 3 games so far without Meier Graf, where she tore her ACL. How do you feel your team has adjusted to life without her?
Well, we're going to get into the heart of the schedule where the opposing coaches know how much Meier meant to me and just my style and just our responses. I mean, even last year, we played Syracuse coming off getting just embarrassed by Louisville at home, and the bounce back in the fight. And Meier, that was her best game of the year. So watching that film, you feel bad for Meier because she represented everything that we showed in that game, which was effort and fight and toughness and grit. But that I have seen from India Banks and Taylor Mason and Kelsey Marshall. It's kind of like they decided that they couldn't make up for her speed and, and some of her skill, but boy, they could play harder and grittier. And that is the response that I've seen. And I've been really, really proud of those 3 seniors. I can't tell you. They weren't even sure they were having a season, and they weren't sure what their role was going to be. And now it was just like, listen, we're going to ride or die with you. Like, let's go. And they are in it. They are in it, and they are fighting hard, and they are practicing hard, and they are leading. So I appreciate that response.
Our next question comes from Michelle Kaufman. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hey, Katie. I have 2 questions, one about your team, one about Syracuse. Can you talk a little more about Kelsey? I mean, 5 3-pointers in the last game and 5 steals, just, what she's doing on both ends of the floor. And then I wanted to ask you about Syracuse, about having Tiana Mangakahina, it's hard to pronounce, but just, yes, what it means, just for her to come back from what she came back from and, that she's actually playing again.
Right. Well, first of all, just to talk about Kelsey. Thanks for mentioning that, because if you've watched Kelsey's career, she's been the recipient of a lot of, one mores, right? Or, next, people deferring and giving her the shot in the corner, or she's on a drag, but she hasn't done a lot off the bounce. She hasn't had to handle the ball a lot. She came in with 4, those 4 guards came in together, and Kelsey's been the one that Taylor's handled the ball, India's handled the ball, Meia's handled the ball, Kelsey got to hunt shots. I've asked her to do so much. And that FAU game, she was so emotional about winning that she did whatever Miami needed to do. And then she had a great shooting night. And that's where I think if you've watched her develop, when she's competing and not so focused on the result of her shots, and she doesn't care, she just competes, she's usually hitting at a really high percentage. So I like that level of toughness that Kelsey brought. I love why she brought it. And I think she's needed this her whole career, to have more responsibility and to be challenged and to have to be the go-to player. And she's really filled in. In terms of Tiana, she's just a brilliant basketball player. I'm one of those coaches that, I don't get into any type of tussle with another team. I never do. I always support, I'm just pro athlete, but to not cheer for her on Thursday is going to be hard. That's how inspirational she's been. She really deserves all the respect. Not so much about what happened to her. Obviously it was really difficult, but just how she's carried herself and how she's handled herself. And last year, she came out of surgeries and chemotherapies, and she's on the bench. I was watching the film, like I said, and I mean, she's coaching her guts out on the sideline for her team. And you see something like that out of Micaiah this year too now. And it's kind of one of those deals where someone understands when something they love has been taken, that they can't, they're so helpless that they can pout, or they can absolutely just pour their heart into their team. And I do that last year, like I'm seeing Micaiah do this year for different reasons. But yeah, she's a really special young lady.
Thank you.
And our next question comes from Wyatt Kopelman. Go ahead, Wyatt.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you about Brianna Jackson. How confident are you in her abilities to step up and lead the team from a rebounding standpoint in conference play after her early season successes in the paint?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Syracuse presents 6'7", a girl from Brazil, Cardoza. They're not lying. And she's a freshman, but she's mature. She's from Brazil. She's definitely does not look like a freshman. But they also have a starting post player that started every game in her career, Finkley. So they're tough. Last year we had just lost Beatrice, and Syracuse really went at Bree and really tried to get her into foul trouble, and Bree held her own. She played great defensively. Bree's not quite back to the level of conditioning that I had her at last year, and we're still working on that. But I think you'll be a little bit not surprised to find out that the kid's just a gamer. And she doesn't practice as well. She plays in games, and then she gets in a game and she just really shows out. I'm happy with Sydney Roby. We had lost Sydney for a long period of time in concussion protocol, and she's back. And that was a huge, Sydney was really probably the starting center prior to going down. And so now that battle's back in practice, and they're both getting a lot better because of it.
And our final question comes from Kevin Ivany. Go ahead, Kevin. Kevin, I think you're muted. All right, we'll come back to Kevin.
I was muted. No, I'm good. I'm here.
Okay.
I was muted on both my phone and my computer. I'm here, though. But, Coach,
Double
what is
muted.
the mindset
That's
going
tough.
into this game? I know I was double muted. But you guys obviously had a week off after FAU going into Syracuse. Just what have you seen in practice and everything like that?
Well, you think we had a week off, but we're fortunate enough this year due to a change in the NCAA ruling where your casual workers or your GAs, in any case, some of your support staff, because you're keeping your bubble tight, because you don't have as many managers. I know I don't have as many managers. We don't have any right now. They went home. So we had already planned on hiring, we already had Morgan Stroman on our bench, and we had Shanice Johnson. As soon as she wanted to get into coaching, she was one call away from getting hired by me in whatever aspect she could. But they changed the rule, and those two are able to be manager / practice players this year. So when we lost that game on Sunday, we were looking for other games. But when you have Mo and Stroh, and you can put then your other team, and you can put them on and make them Syracuse and move your scout team over with some of the talent that we have. We have Carla Arjevits back from Croatia, who we've been missing, who did a heck of a job of being Tiana Manakaya in practice. So we scrimmaged yesterday hard, like a game. And it might have been better than the couple of games we were trying to pick up to replace Stetson. So I wasn't sure that was the right decision, but after I watched that scrimmage, I was like, my God, did we compete yesterday in practice like it was a game. So we'll see. And we need to, because Syracuse, there's no team that plays harder for 40 minutes than Syracuse. They just do. They always do. And I try to outplay them. You really have to get your team ready for a battle, or you don't have a chance, because they can really, they played Penn State last night with Keeger, my old assistant, who's the head coach at Penn State. And I saw a lot of familiar stuff, and Penn State was beating them. But Syracuse always finds that run in the late third or early fourth, where they're playing all their players and they're pressing, and you get real excited because you're up 10. And then by the time you go and come back from commercial break, it's a tie game. They go on amazing runs, and you really have to be composed to beat them.
And we have one more question from David Feronis. Go ahead, David.
Hey, Coach. Just want to ask about the short out-of-conference slate before you really get into the heart of the schedule. I know in a year where there's so many unique circumstances, obviously 2020, but just the challenge of that specifically as you get into ACC play.
Yeah, traditionally, you're going to see us always play an SEC team, a Big 12, a Pac 12, a Big 10 challenge, So we lost some of those games, but so we lost Oregon State. Okay. Well, we replaced them with 2 more ACC games, but Oregon State's a heck of a game, right? We had Auburn that we were going to play in the tournament. We had games that were tough anyway. And just knowing with the protocols of our conference and just, I'm on the scheduling committee right now for the ACC. There's 3 coaches on it. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do or how we were going to approach the schedule. And so I was able to hear all the arguments, and it's no doubt, like, we should increase our ACC games this year. We know our testing protocol. We're going to play at Louisville at Christmas time, and we can test right after the game because we're conference teams, and we're going to do that for each other. You eliminate a lot of the hassle. And for us, for the teams that play tough anyway, not out of conference, we didn't gain harder games. We're playing that same level anyway in our non-conference, so we might as well. It made sense.
All right. Thank you very much, Coach Meier.
Thank you. Have a great one.